Okay, this is a quick video on controlled articular rotations. This is going to be really the foundation of some of the things that we're going to be doing going forward. You're going to see a lot of this. So I want to conceptually introduce this to you in a way that will hopefully make sense going into the exercises that we're going to be doing from here on out. So the point of controlled articular rotations is to make our joints healthier, keep our joints healthy, and to be able to drive specific force through our joints. And what I mean by that is be able to actually isolate tissues, whether it's in an elbow or shoulder, neck, actually be able to drive force and tension and use those muscles in an isolated fashion. So with jiu-jitsu, the reason why this is so important is because our joints are always under attack. So we have to really focus on keeping them healthy, keeping them strong, and keeping the muscles and the structures around them very, very, very strong. So this concept that we're going to go through right now, this is jiu-jitsu, very jiu-jitsu specific. So there's a couple of rules. So the first rule is it's called closing angle pain. And I'm going to make an example, but if you think about which joint is closing, let's look at the elbow. If I go through what's going to be a controlled articular rotation, you're going to see that exercise coming up here shortly in your program. But if I go through it and I'm coming up here and I feel like this joint, see how that's closing? If I feel like there's a pinch or pain right here, I want you to back out of it and go around it. So that'll make more sense as you see more controlled articular rotations. But I want you to back out and go around it. What closing angle pain represents in the human body is an area of the joint that is not accessible. And so by backing out of it and coming around it, what it allows us to do is to keep our body happy, but also to kind of carve out that area so that it gets more accessible. So eventually, there's not going to be a joint area that's not accessible. We're just going to be gliding right through it. But if you think about like a joint, and there's, let's say this knuckle right here is, this whole space up is not accessible, we're going to come out, we're going to hit it, we're going to back out, and we're just going to go around it. If I keep doing this, what's going to happen is I'm going to get a little bit further up here, I'm going to get a little bit further up here, I'm going to get a little bit further, I'm going to get a little bit further, until eventually that whole joint is now accessible. Second of all, there's a concept called irradiation. And what that is being able to specifically drive force through a specific tissue. So what that's going to look like is, it's going to kind of look like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to trap it right here in my gut. And I'm going to really make things stiff. And wherever we're doing the car, you're going to hear you're going to see in your program 50%, 75%, 100%. So I'll go through one. I'm going to do one at 50%. So what I'll do is I'll take a deep breath. I'll trap that air right here. I'm going to start making all my body nice and stiff. The reason why this is important is because it eliminates other places of the body moving. So I'll do one here at the elbow. So what we'll do is I'm going to do one at about 50%, so you'll see what it looks like. So I'm going to start making things stiff. I'm going to come up, and what I'm doing is I'm taking all that tension that's right here, and I'm driving it right into my elbow. So now what I'm doing is we're about 50%. I'm starting to drive force into that elbow and make it stiff. I'm going to come up. Going to turn over as far as I can, and I'm going to come back down. So that's what an elbow car would look like at about 50%. Now 100% looks completely different. 100% is I'm putting everything I can into making that movement stiff and getting everything I can out of the joint. So that's the difference. So let me know if that makes sense, and if you have any questions. I know this is kind of a long video, but this is really the basis of our joint health going forward, and I want to make sure everything makes sense, because as we move on and move through the progressions, this is going to get harder, and it's going to get more complex. So having this basis of irradiation, no closing angle pain, is going to make things really easy.